Hello everybody, welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we're doing a box office breakdown for this past weekend, which saw Flight Risk from Lionsgate. This is also being directed by Mel Gibson, so a lot of things to talk about with this one. Did the film make more than what was expected? Did the film make enough based off of some of the reported budgets out there for the movie? Really, it's hard to say at this point because the budget is very hard to pinpoint. Yes, there is a reference on a Wikipedia page to an article from Collider mentioning something around $10 million as far as the budget is concerned, but because that is from Collider and ultimately also from Wikipedia, without going to those sources directly, it is something you have to take with a giant grain of salt. Essentially, I've seen this film's cost being in the range of somewhere between $10 and $25 million, and so that could ultimately make a huge difference. Still not a huge moneymaker, and yet another reminder of how January is indeed that month where films go to die. And that's exactly what we are seeing in this instance. We'll also talk about some of the updates with Mufasa, once again in the number 2 spot in this case. One of them days hanging around a lot stronger than initially anticipated. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in the top 5, and Moana 2 of all films also creeping its way back into the top 5 after a 6th place finish last week. We also have some of the follow-up numbers for the week 2s for The Wolfman and also for One of Them Days. And so let's just go ahead and go straight into the actual news themselves. And so first, starting off with the top 3 here, we got Flight Risk making $12 million at over 3,000 screens, only about $3,000 per screen. This is just not a great release as far as overall box office is concerned. This is from Lionsgate as a distributor, and so I cannot say I'm that surprised, as Lionsgate has struggled quite a bit in distribution for a lot of the films that have been released. They've really not been the best of movies, financially speaking. I've heard some pretty mixed things about the actual content of Flight Risk. Some really enjoying the fact that it's a 90-minute thriller with very competent actors and a very competent director behind the scenes, not trying to do too many crazy things, not doing too much CGI nonsense, and from that, a lot of people I think have enjoyed it. But I've also heard criticisms because some say that the overall story is, and lack of a better expression in terms that others have used, things like stupid or imbecilic or whatever it might be. So that very well could impact whether people go to see this film or not, but I'm also still hearing some positive things. And so will those positive words, positive voices be able to outweigh the negative? Only time will tell, right? We'll know better with the second weekend numbers if it has a massive catastrophic drop-off, or if we are likely going to get a little bit of a change as we get ever closer to entering into the, not just the end of January in our instance right here, but entering into the actual next month of February, where there are several new films, some large budgets, one of the biggest budgets of the, the last several years, and maybe even of all time, in the case of Captain America and the New World Order, whatever the world's called, Captain Falcon, as I like to call it, which has easily more than that $180 million budget that's being floated out there. Any site that's trying to report on that as an actual fact, by the way, without pushing back on that narrative, should not be trusted in any way whatsoever, because we all know, for anyone who's been following that story for any length of time, the amount of reshoots they had to do on that movie and the amount of problems behind the scenes they've had on it really helps to show us, yeah, that film is, one, not likely going to make its money back, but also needs to make probably about $1 billion just to break even if some of these budgetary estimates are actually to be believed. One of Them Days from Sony Pictures, a movie I had no interest in, but was clearly trying to take advantage of the MLK weekend. Seems like it is actually doing better than expected, so it must be a decent film, enough to get some word of mouth around it to be able to keep it in the top 3 discussion, holding percentage-wise also from the last couple of weeks. $25 million domestic is where this film currently stands. So again, kudos to them for doing that. Even a film like Wolfman getting only to $17 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 still at 5.5 percentage-wise is holding well, but right now I would say it's not likely to make that much more. A big story that I like to point out every single week and to give an update on here, and you can see it best in this chart, is the fact that Mufasa is only $5 million out from overtaking the domestic of Sonic 3. I said that this was going to happen. We were looking at the numbers. It was very easy to see what movies were lagging better than others. Mufasa has been lagging very, very well for the past 6 weeks. Sonic's been doing okay, but nothing compared to what Mufasa was doing, and especially with these weekend numbers where it's making about a $3 million or so advantage on the weekends. It's been about between $2 and $4 million advantage for the last several weekends, and because it is still edging it out on the daily performances, even if by a small amount, it is slowly chipping away. Do not be surprised if Mufasa has a higher domestic take, if not by Friday of this week, then at least by next Sunday would be right now my estimation based off of how it's currently tracking. So Mufasa will win that battle in the end, will likely win the the war as well, being the higher of the two domestic releases, and it easily already has the internationals, and so Mufasa will be the bigger film. It's also true, however, because of a much smaller budget for Sonic 3, Sonic 3 is still right now on paper and on is everything about it is expected to bring about a much larger profit return than Mufasa. Mufasa has not broken even yet, has not made any money back yet, has not actually broken even, whereas Sonic 3 has already broken even, is adding to its profits. That kind of advantage is one that is not likely going to be overtaken by Mufasa, and that's why budgets are always such an important thing in these calculations. Moana 2 of all movies actually creeped in the number five spot here, dropping only 28%. The fact that this movie has been around for so long, for 9 weeks, and it's still in this discussion, just proves how strong this movie is performing. I still don't understand why anyone had any doubts about the film as far as how it was doing or where it was going to end up. Now, well over $1 billion worth of a film has made it to $450 million domestically, which is, again, not that surprising based off of how we saw this film open up. Should this movie have made a lot more than even this? Absolutely. I think that had the film actually been well thought out, well crafted, good, and had good songs, it probably could have done that. Unfortunately, that is not the case. We just got a very mediocre, decent movie that is very forgettable. That is probably not a movie that I have ever plans to watch again, and I would say a lot of people probably feel the same way. It is not the same as Moana, I will say that much. I think anyone, even if you like Moana 2, would have to argue if you had to choose just one to watch, almost everyone is going to have to be likely choosing the first Moana, and probably for good reason. A new film also from Neon, the film Presence. This is a Steven Soderbergh movie, and you know when Steven Soderbergh is involved, usually you have lower budgets and some unique filmmaking tactics. I don't know if this was a movie he made with a phone like he has in the past with movies like Unsane, but based on the fact that the reported budget I saw for this movie was only about $2 million, yeah, that probably is likely the case, or at the very least, he found a lot of creative ways to not have to spend that much money on it. Skipping ahead a little bit down to another new film this weekend, Brave the Dark from Angel Studios, opened at over 2,200 screens, so about as wide of a release as you can typically get for an Angel Studios release, but only making $2.5 million, so definitely lower end numbers there. And yeah, Brave the Dark is just once again another proving, as far as the financials are concerned, just another example about how Angel Studios keeps on trying to recapture that magic of Sound of Freedom, and it's just not happening. And I think that maybe what they need to start to do is rethink their strategy somewhat, a little bit. Again, it's good that there's new wholesome content that's being put out there for audiences, that there definitely are, again, some audiences there that are hungry for it. But I think that it would be even better for them to focus on the content that is not only something that their audience would enjoy, but also can make money. And I think even though we're not talking about massive financial losses here with these movies, you need to still add on to your overall coffers so that way you can make even better films. You can afford even better creators, and that can just raise your overall product and the product quality as well. Let's go into some individual releases here. So Flight Risk, only $12 million. That's right. That Mark Wahlberg film with his very bald, partly balding head decision that apparently was completely his idea, and he goes crazy in the movie. I've heard good and bad about that. $12 million there domestic, no internationals to speak of. Mufasa officially at $626 million. So again, not a film that's going to make $1 billion, not even going to come close to that of the first film, 2019, the quote live action, super realistic, hyper photorealistic animation. Nonsense, right? That film went off just like nuts, went gangbusters, like 1.6 to 1.9 billion, depending on when whether you adjust for inflation or things of that sort. This movie's not getting any of that, so this is a failure, objectively speaking, when you are looking at it as a franchise, right? Their attempt to say, oh, let's take the foundation of the remake of 2019's Mufasa, let's have that be that marker of success. Now let's tell a story about Mufasa and try to build this world out a bit, do a bit of a prequel, and try to get some of those same people. You did not get really any of those people in any sense of being in a similar degree by any means. And so I think that when you look at a number like this, yes, on paper we could say much better than what anyone could have anticipated, especially after a very bad opening weekend of only $30 million domestic. International has been good, but not great. The last film, I believe, was able to make $1 billion just from the internationals alone. This is not even half of that yet. And though the domestic is likely to overtake a film like Sonic, it is not going to be one of your to ride home about movies. as far as domestic box office being concerned. And so this film right now on pace still to have a chance of maybe breaking even, maybe making a little bit of profit if you just look at the theatricals. And if you remember, some people in the comment section just cannot figure this out. You don't get 100% of the box office receipts if you are the studio. You split that with the theaters. Usually in the United States, it's about a 55% split for the studios. In other foreign nations internationally, it's a 40% cut for studios. And then if you're in communist China, it's only a 25% cut. So again, I do think that some of these numbers are not being either presented the way that they should be, or there's a lot of misinformation being put out there about how these numbers actually work, as my microphone has now started to slump down a little bit. Apologies if this is causing any sound issues. That should now have fixed it. One of them days is, again, doing better than expected. Look at that chart right here. Again, this is the numbers.com chart. Better historically based off of its opening weekend. We also have Sonic 3 also doing well on that chart, right? Doing better than any other film typically has done over the past, 5-10 years. That's what the metric here is for this chart here. And it has a pretty even split between the domestic and internationals. And I think that might be one of the issues, is that in order for this movie to be the kind of movie that many of the fans want it to be, it would need to start doing a much better job internationally. And that's just not happening at this point in time. Don't get me wrong. This is not a failure. This is not a flop. However, with the potential that this has and with the passion that the fans have for this movie, it should be a lot better. I think there's clearly a lot of decisions that they are making, a lot of ways in which the film is being presented with the characters potentially also, where it is very insulated. It's bringing some new people in, but not to the same degree as we've seen from other franchises. Brave the Dark. This is actually, I think, a 2023 film release that was eventually picked up for distribution by Angel Studios. So it's another one of those ones where it's not from directly Angel Studios. It's just distributed by them. And so, yeah, I think that this is just kind of speaking to, yes, just because you have Angel Studios' name attached to it, you don't have a large enough guaranteed audience for any of those movies. And so hopefully they've got some bigger plans in the bank. Lord knows they made tons of profit off of Sound of Freedom. Hopefully they can use that to start making some better films that can bring people out there, or at least market them better to bring more people out there. This new, Presence from 2025 from Steven Soderbergh. Again, a very interesting situation here. I believe it's a horror film and a low budget. Like, again, $2 million was what I had seen the reported budget as being, which is crazy. Wanted to easily over $1 billion at this point. Again, called that a long time ago. $1,026 million, still making money as well in the top 5 domestic. We're talking about a movie that, again, has a chance of getting upwards of $1.1 billion, but we'll have to wait and see. This film's definitely nearing the end of its run. And lastly, Wicked, $717 million worldwide, a very good run for this movie, which, again, I think some people slept on, some people didn't think had potential, but it legged out very well, especially domestically, $468 million there domestically, and it's on track right now to, and maybe between 725 and 750 in the international numbers. And so not the biggest moneymaker in the world when we're talking about net gain raw profits, but a successful movie nonetheless, no matter what anyone else might try to tell you. We always keep things here honest here on the channel. Not saying anyone is lying on any other channel, but we do look at the numbers as they are and not as what some rumors might try to, insinuate that they might be. We always try to keep things realistic here. Going over to the charts, because we love Chatsy on OMB Reviews to try to wrap things up for the day. We got Flight Risk at $12 million, means right now it's around $8.4 million in the red. Not the biggest box office loser in the world, based off of, again, a reported budget that seems to be all over the place. So assuming a budget of $10 million, which is what I've seen be reported, then that means it's not too far off from making its money. I have also heard, though, some people mention it potentially being costing as much as $25 million. If that is the case, then you're talking about a $30 million loss there. So that budget, once we finally get that official, will make a huge difference. I'm just going to be going based off of the one that I found on the Wikipedia that had the resource attached to it. Again, do take that with a massive grain of salt. But if it is 10 million, if it's even upwards of 15, it's not looking to be a huge loss there. So we'll see what next weekend's able to bring. But it's going to probably get a lot harder to fight this, as the further you got from your initial release. Presence didn't make a whole lot of money, $3.4 million, but for a film that's coming from Soderbergh, a film that came also, I believe, from distributor Neon, the ultimate estimate for the film's budget estimate was $2 million. So if the film actually only did cost $2 million to make, making $3.4 million in your opening weekend means you are very close to breaking even. For some people, they think, wait, if it cost $2 million and you made $2 million, didn't you break even? Well, yes. If you remember that studio get 55% cut of that domestic number, that means that of that amount, that $2 million they only got about $1 million right? A little over $1 million back in that. The rest of it went to and stays with the actual theater. And so that is the reason why we have to, keep those things in mind. Having $3.4 million is why you're likely seeing it instead being like 1.5 to closer to $2 million you're getting back. And so that's why it is very close to breaking its, going into profitability territory. And I would think that by the end of next weekend, unless its budget gets updated for some reason and changes, this film will make money. And hey, kudos to them for being able to actually bring that about. Brave the Dark. This film also, when it comes to budget, is, I don't think, as clear. One budget I saw was between $5 and $10 million potentially. So either way, though, not likely going to have enough steam based on what we've seen from previous releases from Angel Studio movies. So don't expect that film to make money. One of them days, $7 million in the red. This film has a good chance of actually breaking even. So kudos to them for making a film perform a lot better than I think anyone would have anticipated, myself included. Wolfman, as of right now, we can make some projections on this. So Wolfman at $27 million means we're projecting the film to make between $39 and $55 million total worldwide. A $25 million budget means we're going to see a loss of between $4 and $13 million. Chances of it breaking even are very, very low, if at all even possible. One of them days, we also have those projections on $35 million to $50 million as far as overall projections are concerned. For that, and that's why in this case we are projecting it to have at the very least $506,000 in profit, or up to $9.1 million. I think the film is basically performing well enough to where talking about profitability is a more likely scenario. It's not going to be the biggest moneymaker in the world, especially even compared to its budget. But hey, money is money, and making money in any way is always something that a studio wants to see. Some last minute updates here. Nosferatu is currently now looking to be around $5.5 million in net gain profits. So again, not the biggest moneymaker in the world, but doing well enough. Sonic the Hedgehog, $329 million in the black. Again, because of those late releases internationally, we knew that this film would be a chart breaker, right? Being able to make more than double of what the total box office was. Mufasa the Lion King is getting very close to doubling that number as well, 52.3% there. So again, $626 million, just to make sure that that is indeed up to date, because some of these numbers come from Box Office Mojo, which is not always the most reliable of locations and places. But that means Mufasa is currently only at 18 million in the red. Again, very possible for this film to end in the black when everything is said and done, but it's still going to be a little bit of a journey for them. Moana 2, over $1 billion, $225 million in net profits. This film also tracking to get pretty close to making double what it made in its first 2 weeks. So having a, typically average performance at this point, but definitely edging towards a more than average performance. And then lastly, with Wicked, it indeed has doubled its first 2 weeks, $56 million in net gain profits. And so we're not going to see that much more profits being added on to this movie, but hey, these are currently those numbers, and I want to give you all those updates. And so what are y'all's thoughts? Have you seen Flight Risk? The film has a lot of potential to be able to do a little bit better, to maybe make some money back, though maybe not that much. I think this is the last major release that Mel Gibson's going to be working on up until The Passion of the Christ 2, which is a film I know I'm very excited for. Also, your thoughts on the new Soderbergh film Presence. Do like me some Soderbergh, so definitely on my radar. And lastly, with Brave the Dark, have you seen this new film from Angel Studios? I was given an early review copy. Apologies to Angel Studios, was not able to get to it. Just timing during the school year is very, very tricky. And so, again, thank you all for sending me that copy. I was not able to get to it, though. But have you seen it? What are your thoughts about that? Let me know your thoughts about that and anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. Also, please make sure that you vote in this year's Raven Awards. Go to OMBReviews.com, OMBReviews.com, all one word, OMBReviews.com. On there, you'll find several tabs. One includes one that has all of the Raven Awards, both nominees and winners from previous years. Click on the one that says 2024. On that page, you will find a link to a ballot where you can fill out your best and worst of films in 2024. Our Oscars boycott show is still very much alive and well, and it is always fun to have those conversations, so check it out there. Also, there's box office tracking available on the site, rosary request forms there as well, and plenty of other information to find out how to join our Discord server and a lot of the other social media platforms to follow for more information, especially as we start to pick things up as the month of February gives us probably one of the biggest costing movies of all time, potentially, and also likely one of the biggest flops of the year if the numbers go the way that we think that it might. So let me know your thoughts about any of these things in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light up that fire button if you can, and smash the rumble button as well. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed Sunday feast of St. Polycarp, and as always, God bless. now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribestar people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And also to the K-Man. Check out his website, xtheboundaries.co. And lastly, to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.